The Watcher in the Walls. It was late at night when Lauren, a young woman in her 20s, settled into her new apartment in a quiet neighborhood. The building was old, creaky floors, narrow hallways, and a distinct smell of musty wood, but the price was right, and the location suited her perfectly. The landlord had been oddly vague about the history of the building, but Lauren wasn't one to pry. She unpacked her boxes and tried to settle in. Her first night there was uneventful, save for the occasional creak of the building settling, which she chalked up to its age. But on the second night, she began to notice something strange. As she sat reading on her couch, she heard a faint tapping sound, like a nail tapping against a wall. It was soft at first, almost imperceptible, but it grew louder over time, echoing in the stillness of the apartment. She stood up, trying to locate the source. The sound was coming from behind the wall in the hallway, just beside the bathroom. She stood in front of it for a long moment, trying to decide whether she should investigate further. But the noise stopped abruptly. Confused, she shrugged it off and returned to her couch, trying to ignore the unease settling in her chest. But over the next few nights, it grew worse. The tapping became more rhythmic, more deliberate. It was as if someone was trying to get her attention. One evening, she had had enough. With a flashlight in hand, she approached the spot where the sound was most prominent. The wall seemed solid, but there was something unsettling about it, like it had been disturbed before. She pressed her ear against it, hoping to hear something that would explain the odd noise. The moment her ear touched the wall, she felt a coldness seeping through it, as if something was just on the other side, waiting. Suddenly, the tapping resumed, louder now, as though it was coming from just inches away. She jumped back in shock and looked around. The apartment was still, silent, save for the growing sound. Her heart raced, and she began to panic. What if someone was trapped behind the wall? What if it was some kind of hidden passage? Lauren's curiosity got the better of her, and she decided to investigate further. She grabbed a hammer from the toolbox and began to carefully tap at the wall where the noise seemed to be coming from. After a few moments, a small crack appeared. She dug into it, the sound of the hammer striking the wall echoing in the otherwise silent apartment. Then, with a final forceful strike, the wall gave way. The flashlight in her other hand revealed a small, dark space, barely big enough for a person to crawl through. But what she saw in the space made her blood run cold. There, etched into the wood of the wall, were hundreds of tiny, careful scratches, like something or someone had been clawing at it from the inside for years. But that wasn't the worst part. What terrified Lauren the most was the figure, huddled in the dark corner, staring directly at her with wide, vacant eyes. The figure had been there for as long as the building stood, its body stiff and decaying, trapped behind the wall for reasons no one would ever understand. The tapping noise? It had been the sound of the thing, trying to get out, begging for someone to listen. Suddenly, the flashlight flickered and went out, plunging her into darkness. And in the stillness, she heard it, the tapping, now coming from inside the walls, and closer than ever. Then, the whisper. "You shouldn't have opened the wall." And the last thing Lauren heard before the silence swallowed her whole was the sound of scratching, from all around.